The cycle has suddenly become the center of the politics of Uttar Pradesh. It also happens to be the symbol of the Samajwadi party. But Akhilesh Yadav is giving a run for the money to the BJP. At least that's what the ground assessment says. But will that be good enough for Akhilesh Yadav? Or will his family changing equations bring it down for the Samajwadi party? Hello and welcome. I'm Pallavi Ghosh, and this week on One Take, as UP heads for a very critical phase of elections where it becomes very important for Akhilesh Yadav to do well, our focus is going to be on one, the family problems within the Samajwadi party, what it means for the young, relatively young Akhilesh Yadav in one of the most important and crucial political battles of his life, and of course what it means for the future of the cycle. Well, recently the Prime Minister and the Home Minister Amit Shah, as well as the UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, while they were attacking Samajwadi party and also acknowledging that they were the main contenders to the BJP in the state, they focused on the family equations of Akhilesh Yadav. See, the interesting part is that last week we spoke about the family rift within the Trinamool Congress. See, when you have a personality-dominated political parties like, say, the SP, to a certain extent the BSP, the TMC, and of course the Congress party, the intrigues within the family, or what they call the palace intrigues, has a huge impact on the political life as well. The lines between personal as well as politics get blurred, and somewhere it starts having an impact on the political future of these political parties. For example, I'm just going to go back quickly to the case of the Trinamool Congress, the Bhaipo syndrome. Is there a rift or is there not a rift between Mamata Banerjee as well as her Bhaipo, which is Abhishek Banerjee? What does it mean for the party as a whole? Is it creating a rift within the party? All of that is going to have a very important bearing on the future of the TMC and its game plan to emerge as a national alternative. In stark comparison is that of the Samajwadi party. We all know about the fight within the Yadav family. Shivpal Yadav miffed with Akhilesh Yadav, and he also earlier pointing out that how Akhilesh was not giving him that importance which his father Mulayam Singh Yadav. At some point of time, there was also the talk that the father was not getting along with the son, and while Akhilesh was charting his own territory and his own political course, the father was actually holding himself back, because the father was also caught between his own son Akhilesh, but on the other hand his family, for example Shivpal Yadav and so on. But you know, politics is such, it can make strange bedfellows. It can also possibly briefly unite warring factions, and that is certainly what seems to be happening as far as Uttar Pradesh and the Samajwadi party is concerned. Now, just before elections, we saw these huge photo opportunities. We saw Akhilesh Yadav, for example, going and meeting his father, touching his feet, taking his blessings. Well, nothing strange. That's what all fathers and sons do, I guess. But also the patch up with Shivpal Yadav, where clearly Mulayam Yadav played the role of a broker. Now, what becomes interesting is the recent attacks on Akhilesh Yadav by the BJP. If you remember the sound bites of Yogi Adityanath or even Amit Shah and even the Prime Minister accusing Akhilesh Yadav of using his father to further his political gains. And what they used it to say was the fact that Akhilesh was not resonating on the ground, and therefore he required the services of the old war horse as well as his father Mulayam to step in and campaign. We who have not seen Mulayam publicly campaign in a long time now see him up and about along with Akhilesh Yadav. See, it's very important in a family-dominated political party, and certainly one which wants to maintain its stronghold over the Yadavs, to actually be seen as one. One of the main reasons which people started pointing out why Akhilesh was perhaps not doing well in recent elections was the Yadav clan was divided. You know, the Yadavs, like many other sects, often vote according to clans, about their loyalties to the particular clan. And when this starts resonating on the ground that all is not well within the family, it leaves the traditional voters very confused. And therefore, in a calculated risk, and I was told in a meeting which took place recently, just before the heat and dust of the UP elections, it was decided that we have to forget all our differences and come together. And that explains why Akhilesh Yadav, despite his reservations about his uncles and seniors in the party realize that what is more important is his political future, and therefore it is important that all of them come together. And that explains why a Shivpal Yadav and an Akhilesh and a Ram Gopal Yadav and of course Mulayam are all coming together. Now let's talk about what really is in it for Akhilesh Yadav. See, he's not getting younger but relatively young. He has become aggressive, but he also faces the same problem which most of the heir apparents face. And that is, they're always going to be compared to their father or mother or whatever the case may be. For example, Rahul Gandhi always compared to a certain extent to Sonia Gandhi, father Rajiv Gandhi and of course Indira Gandhi. Doesn't always measure up. The same is the case with Abhishek Banerjee, who will always be compared to Mamata Banerjee because she is shrewd, she understands the son of the soil and also what politics is all about. Maybe some would say it's unfair, but the same thing happens with Akhilesh Yadav. Always is going to be compared to his wily, shrewd politician father Mulayam Yadav. And that is where the problem happens. For the traditional Yadav voter, when they are seeing that Akhilesh Yadav is the main contender, will an Akhilesh minus his father and uncle really work for them? Many of them would have a reservation thinking that, it may not click on the ground, and therefore it was important for Akhilesh Yadav to actually be seen as one. Why it was important was to send out to a traditional Yadav vote bank that, we are all in it together. I'm a chip off my father's shoulder, block, whatever the case may be. And when you vote for me, you're actually voting for the entire Yadav clan. And that explains that why Shivpal Yadav, Ram Gopal and Mulayam, all of them needed to be together. Now to come back to the future, the political future of Akhilesh Yadav. It's not going to be an easy election for him at all. The BJP surges ahead, it's far ahead, it's a sitting government, it has a very well-oiled party machinery, which frankly speaking even the SP has in the state. The anti-BJP votes are massively divided between the BSP, other small players, the Congress to a certain extent, and of course the SP. There are pockets in which the SP still has to make the intrusion. The phases we are moving into are the phases where the BJP does have a head start. BJP has some very high-profile campaigners, but most important of them all is the Prime Minister. And of course the Hindu card, the Hindutva card is something which loads heavily in favour of the BJP, and that is a setback as far as Akhilesh Yadav is concerned. And therefore it is important for Akhilesh to do very, very well. Even if he doesn't win, he has to become a player and lead player in UP politics, because 2024 is not too far away. Let's take an example of Bihar, where Tejaswi Yadav was always compared to his wily, shrewd father Lalu Yadav. But in the absence of Lalu Yadav, who was in jail at that point of time, Tejaswi earned that sympathy, but he also was extremely aggressive. But many complained that he had begun a little bit too late. A similar complaint which is also there against Akhilesh Yadav. But Tejaswi has emerged on his own to a very great extent. First of all, in terms of electoral results, he did very well for himself, remains a chief contender, and who knows, if political equations in the state changes, he can actually come to play a very important role, possibly also of a kingmaker. In the 2024 polls, Bihar is going to of course play a dominant role because it's an important state in the scheme of things as far as the Hindu heartland is concerned, and Tejaswi Yadav moves ahead with a forward march. Same is the case of Akhilesh Yadav. Now suppose for hypothetical purposes we say that he's not going to be winning elections, but if he does a very good assessment, if he does a very good number of seats he manages to win, he becomes a contender number 2. 2024 elections, Bihar and UP matter. His voice inside Parliament, outside Parliament, inside UP is of course going to be mattering. And therefore it is very important that Akhilesh Yadav wins, and even if he doesn't win, he actually has or musters up a large number of seats. To emerge as a main contender to the BJP becomes very critical for him. As politics over the cycle peaks, where he's being accused and the cycle symbol is also being used by the BJP to connect it with acts of terror in other states, like in the case of Ahmedabad blast, UP elections is entering a very critical stage. But more importantly, Akhilesh Yadav's future also enters a politically critical phase. Second and most importantly, before I wrap up, is for his own sake, Akhilesh Yadav has to do well. Because if he doesn't do well, then there are many within his family who will say, we told you so. We still need Mulayam Yadav. What is Akhilesh minus Mulayam? Therefore, these electoral results becomes very critical for Akhilesh Yadav, the politician, Akhilesh Yadav, the son, Akhilesh Yadav, a member of the Yadav clan. Do give in your reactions on a social media timeline. Elections are still very much on. Every week we are going to give you our assessment from the ground, but do give us your reactions because that's what matters. Thank you so much for watching.